America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will officially call this meeting to order, and we are going to begin today with a presentation by our Director of HR here at the City, Mark Farrington. Pivot or perish, today's leadership challenges. Welcome and good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioner McLeod. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning, members of the public. My name is Mark Farrington, and for the last 8 years, I have been blessed to serve as the Director of Human Resources and Civil Services for this awesome city. I'm supported by a team of professionals whom I'll introduce momentarily. In support of the City of Lakeland vision, Human Resources team collaborates with leadership and employees to create an environment that is world-class, culturally inclusive, and an innovative world-class community. I want to acknowledge now just the people that serve with me because they help me manage the human resources needs of 2,400 employees. I'm ably assisted by a team of working managers whom you see here, who provide services in fulfillment of our mission to support 16 departments and 2,400 employees. Our areas of accountability, impact, and scope often overlap as it relates to supporting people-driven organization going forward and in the past. The Office of the Director, myself, and my assistant, Desiree Rodriguez, on my right, we try to manage all of the cats and dogs that come the Human Resources way. Together we manage most of the Civil Service Board interactions as well as coordinating my access and availability to employees, leadership, and HR staff. I lead a team of what we call number twos, the assistants to the department heads, and we meet to vet ideas, policies, and practices. And then I coordinate with and collaborate with my peer leaders to ensure we stay on task. And for me, there's a unique partnership between myself, the Director of IT, the Director of Risk Management, and the Finance Director, because we're the ones that have to maintain continuity throughout the organization. So most of that coordination comes through me. Employment Services is accountable for sourcing, screening, qualifying applicants and staff for opportunities within the city. They also ensure that HR interactions are compliant with federal, state, and city charter and civil service rules with respect to compensation, applicant qualifications, and appeals of certain actions that an employee would be involved in. Market classification and compensation of the city and our position begins within this group, and being able to accurately track and document every employee transaction falls to the HR operations team. Coming to the close of this, the Employee Engagement and Development Division, more affectionately known as EE&D, initiates all types of activities to develop a diverse pipeline of leadership and staff talent. They manage a citywide just-in-time online learning platform, LinkedIn Learning. And for those of you unfamiliar with large-scale organizational effectiveness, you don't know the lifeblood of a lot of organizations is the organizational effectiveness and development team. It builds interventions that are critical to transforming any culture. And our team has done that very well for the past 4 years, and we've been able to transition from one group to another group to do that of staff, and we're very pleased with them. The yeoman-like work that we did that was done with Unit 3 shuttering and all the things that were predicted to happen, the way people were going to be mistreated, didn't happen because of the Employee Engagement and Development team. Last, the Employee Policy and Labor Relations team teams with employees and leaders to ensure equity, policy interpretation, compliance, performance improvement measures, and to ensure equity by both city and regulatory standards. The mission of the HR team is to be there to support our leaders, and our employees to try to do that. All right. Now for the subtext, or the main reason for the presentation. After I introduce my team, all the things that we're dealing with manifest themselves in this presentation, and a lot of the things that my peer leaders are dealing with manifest themselves in this presentation. Today, July 5th, following the anniversary of America's birthday, we look back over 246 years that we as a nation have gone through many transitions, overcoming many impediments, both anticipated as well as unexpected. I intentionally call your attention and remind you the 246 years of history that have unfolded in our country just from the last 50, 60, 70 years, from world wars to the Industrial Revolution to women in the workforce. The fact that women and people of color are typically represented on the dioceses across the country. That I, as a Black American, stand here before you as the Director of Human Resources and Leadership. These are all challenges that the country had to face, deal with, and overcome. Today I'm reprising and updating a conversation that I had with the Commission 365 days ago, on July 6, 2021, where I spoke to you about America's workforce transition. Today I want to spend some time focusing on Lakeland's workforce transition, because it's imperative that all parties to the success of the City of Lakeland organization know, remain aware, and respond accordingly, because successful transition of our workforce is critical to the pursuit and achievement of our vision to be a vibrant, innovative, culturally inclusive, world-class community. For the last few years, pundits in the media, our friends, even you and I, have talked about where we have seen America's workforce transition in ways like waiting for service at a restaurant, checking out retail purchases, the inability to schedule appointments, or being inconvenienced by a pilot shortfall or staffing shortfall at the airport. We've all had to face these things. Unfortunately, we're never going to go back to the America we used to know. We're service on demand. The workforce has changed drastically. I want to share with you what the transformation looks like in the city, the new organizational realities, the implications, if they're left unintended, the challenges we're addressing, and how we are strategically approaching these issues in a purposeful, prioritized, planful approach instead of ready, fire, aim. Only baby boomers can identify the major icons represented in that first square. Most of it, Commissioner Walker smiled, I smiled, Commissioner Reed smiles, because we recognize them, we know them, we grew up with them, we matured with them. The middle section is something none of us counted on. The delayed entry of 20 teens, 20-somethings, and even some 30-somethings. And not only did we underestimate the time that it would take for them to enter the workforce, we had no ideas about their level of preparation prior to arrival or upon arrival, first day ready, as we call it. Delayed entry is significant not only because of the numbers and the need for developable talent to do our roles, but the skills associated with coming in as a junior person and learning how to be an employee and learning what your contribution is to an organization and to contribute to a greater good. That's what this group has missed. Women are leaving the workforce at all organizational levels. During the pandemic, it was realized that women were the primary ages of care, or primary responsible for the care of their children. When workers are seeing promotions, male-oriented cultures, when I was in the private sector, we used to call it the mommy track. And women started to leave the workforce because of that. During the pandemic, they were asked to be responsible for remote schooling, cooking, cleaning, classroom quarantines. Where there's pay issues, the equity between what am I making at the lower end of a pay scale versus what I'm paying for childcare has driven women out of the marketplace. And it's at all stratas of the organization. All stratas of the organization. So let's talk about what are some of the resultant challenges for us as a leadership team. Transfer and maintenance of institutional knowledge. Organizational insight, customer service priorities. We are 16 different departments serving 117,000 people in the community. When we have the type of transitions that we've had in the last 5 years, like of over 11,000 years of service, those practices and that institutional knowledge and the transfer thereof are absolutely essential to our ongoing success as an organization. The awareness of how we serve, of practices and how we serve customers varies. I look at Bob Donahue and Beth, and knowing the responsibilities of Parks and Recs, if somebody's not there to open a shelter or a pavilion for a wedding or something like that. And it's like, oh my gosh, people are not showing up for those types of things. Those are the types of practices that we have to instill, that we make sure that we're focusing inward as we bring new entrants into our workforce. Public service mindset and experience not as easily found nor readily available. When you talk to staff, a lot of them were raised with the serve orientation from youth on up. We're not finding that people understand the intrinsic value of serving and serving towards the public, particularly when in the private sector, they can go out and make 25 to 40% more from one week to the next. So our work is not as attractive as it once was, and I'll show you on what I base that momentarily. Employability skills among the reduced applicant pool. We'll talk about the work ethic. We'll also, in a moment, I'll share with you that the academic preparation is a factor in some roles. So we have to supplement what we're not getting through K through 12. We had the school board superintendent in earlier. He talked about importing teachers internationally with the science, technology, engineering, and math skills to escalate and to raise the game. We have to do some of that too. Sean has had many conversations in the last couple of months with employees asking for individual development stuff. Things that heretofore I would think, okay, didn't they get that in school, or didn't they, where did they invest some of themselves to close that gap? But Sean's getting it. We have to respond to it whether we like it or not, because that's the need of the workforce. So let's look at employment by the numbers. The top box you see is the number of applications we've received this year on the far right, FY22, 8,544. As your eyes scan to the left, you can see we are down 49% in fiscal year 18, 44% in 2019. We pay well, but the private sector, by raising product costs to us a nickel, can hire our people away. No ifs, ands, or buts. So they are not incented to look at the public sector. I know that the FY23 plan penciled in right now from Mike and Sean is a 5% merit increase. Based on the 2022 Florida Public Employees Personnel Information Exchange, 5% is nice, but it doesn't close the gap. And when I say it doesn't close the gap, I'm not talking the gap between us and publics and private sector employers. I'm talking about similarly situated public sector municipalities that they're facing the same things we are in terms of services to the public, limited ability to pass through increases, but knowing they've got to retain people. So it's something that I ask you to take consideration of, as well as Mike and Sean will, as you approach the budget finalization. The second box depicts the rate at which staff are leaving the city of Lakeland. With the exception of the 2021 spike, we remain a good place to work. If we can get people here, they manage to stay. But we have to change some of the ways we get them in, and how do we develop them, and how do we reach that new group of employees. Box 3, applicant rejections and candidates who do not accept city offers. A lot of it's money. Some of it's the issue around hybrid work arrangements. There are a lot of different reasons. We've had people leave because somebody else left and they didn't want to try to learn by themselves, so they're going to go home and sit on the porch for a while and figure it out. And you scratch your head and say, where does this come from? But that's some of the stuff that we're facing running our city and your businesses. So here's what the workforce looks like today. The numbers in black are numbers of employees. The numbers in red is a percentage of the workforce. Workforce as of October 17, you could see that Generation Z and millennials were roughly about 38% of the population. Right now, they're 49.9% of the population. Baby boomers, we are on the way out. Less than 20%, and when you throw in the few folks remaining from the silent generation, it's less than 20% of the population. Your workforce has changed. You know, as we leaders talk about what's different, what are we facing with? You know, I watched a bunch of video from different people, but then she's listening. My wife told me to watch this Simon Sinek video, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to watch it. Well, I did. And I'm like, thank you, Connie. It was probably one of the best things that I saw in helping me understand what we're facing, and I want to share that with you. We have to learn to, as leaders, more clearly communicate expectations to these folks during the selection and onboarding process, to check in and see if they need help. And we have to help them learn patience. And not everything's instant gratification, because with, you know, in the device culture, you text 10 friends, hi. Somebody's going to have time to talk to you and tell you how wonderful you are. Versus sit and talk to you face to face, they just don't know how to do that. So we have to do more of that. We have to help them build their social confidence on and off social media platforms. One of the interesting concepts that Simon Sinek talked about was not having cell phones in meetings, not allowing them. So when people come in, they communicate with each other. How's your family? How's your father? I heard he was ill. Well, he's much better. Thank you for asking. And just teach them how to have that dialogue the way that a lot of us pre-cell phone had that dialogue with each other and got comfortable in the environment and model the behaviors we want to have. And I'm not saying to rule out cell phones in meetings, because I, like everybody else, have come, you know, if I get there 10 minutes early, check my calendar, check my messages, all that. But as a means to stimulate conversation and invite them to the party, and not let them hide behind the devices. We have to help them understand the connection between engagement and job satisfaction. You know, if you talk to young people, this next 2 generations, they all want to have an impact, but after 6 months, they're frustrated. Well, in Lakeland, you're still drinking from a water hose for another 9 or 10 months. So you're not going to have that impact because you don't understand enough of the systems, you haven't been through a full cycle. Another area of concern, and I touched on it lightly, is just the preparation of our students. What are we getting? A lot of them do not come directly from K through 12 to us, and that's fine. We like to have people to bring different experience. That diversity of experience makes us who we are. However, I know a lot of the people we do have ultimately have come to us from Polk County schools. For the past dozen years or so, I've always monitored U.S. News and World Report's high school proficiency ratings to see how students were performing, were they at grade level, and those types of things. So this is what I pulled on local Lakeland schools. Graduation rates are awesome. But as I start to scan and I start to look at the proficiencies of math, and proficiency means percentage of students at grade level. And I look at reading and science and proficiencies. Florida CR rate is Florida College Readiness Rate ranking out of 596 high schools in the state of Florida. So to say, okay, the schools have to fix that, we already know. The superintendent has told us 4 months ago he's working on it. But we still have to focus internally on what we're doing to close some of those gaps. Diminishing of services and the diminishing of the quality of services isn't an option for us. So what do? We pivot, persevere, or do we perish? First of all, we better define what they are. Pivot's just a structured course correction designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis. Hypothesis, the workforce coming in is a lot different than my generation, and we better figure out how to attract and retain them. Persevere means we stay the course on the vision and strategy and do the things differently to address problems that currently surface. And parish means just that. And for the folks on our leadership team, that's not an option. P-I-N-O. Parish is not an option. So how do we pivot and persevere? Continue to challenge assumptions about policies and practices and make adjustments. And it was funny, in the back of my mind, I had some things that I would say, but in the dry run with the city manager, he says, okay, Mark, what are you talking about? What are some of those assumptions you might want us to challenge? And I'll start with, because I'm looking at Mike, the finance director. Mike came to you a few months ago about some changes with the pension plan, challenging some assumptions that we could save the city some money if we do some things differently, and we could reduce pension contribution from employees. Challenging an assumption. LPD, we've all been very proud of LPD going out of state to recruit police officers. That idea didn't start in LPD. That idea started in HR, where I said, if everybody in Florida is looking for the same people we're looking for, let's go out of state and get some officers that are feeling underappreciated, undervalued, underloved, and bring them down here. And we partnered with the chamber, and we partnered with the national real estate firm that put together the collateral, and we started doing those types of things. You know, we're challenging our thought processes on service awards and tuition, knowing that enough students aren't pursuing pursuing post-K through 12 education. Some of those things are subject to budget approval that Mike and Sean will be talking to you about. We're looking at rewards and recognition. We're just about ready to kick to the directors a revised rewards and recognition program. So we've got to challenge what we do and how we do it. And my favorite one, because we're all over the board, is let's figure out whether this step system adds value or not. You know, we've got this pay step system. Is it a 20th century solution that goes on perennially, or is it a 20th century solution that's outlived its usefulness? But we need to do what's right for the workforce if it's an impediment to us attracting and retaining staff. What questions can I answer for you?
Thank you, Mark. It's great to get more of an inside look at all the things that you're doing, as well as the challenges within HR here at the city. Questions, my commissioners? Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for chairing, of course, our meeting today.
My pleasure.
But Mark, you shared with us, you shared with us, I'm going back several years back, maybe 5-7 years ago, that these particular challenges would be coming, and we had to face them because of what you saw happening in the actual, I guess, when it comes to the hiring of employees and even the loss of employees when it comes to our attrition situation, folk, timing out and having to be replaced. And, we talked very much about during that time, the commission, of course, but succession planning and make sure we had things in place. And you mentioned how, I guess, the organization was structured to do just that. But even at that, now hearing what you shared, and thank you for the information you shared with us this morning, challenges that we're faced with and how we have to adapt. But my question is, where are we in the adaptation? Are we adapting, you think, to make sure that we can get these particular positions filled or replaced as we have those terming out as they are because of retirement and that kind of thing, or just leaving, going elsewhere, as you said, because of maybe another opportunity to get a few more dollars? Interestingly enough, I was just talking to a landscaper, the one that does some work for me, and I was visiting some particular properties, and I saw where some things had not been taken care of, and he was just saying, Mr. Walker, it's just hard to find good help, and make sure not only be finding good help, but when you get them, and you try to teach them and share with them what things need to be done, it's like they forget it, and still I'm having to go back and make up for what was not done. So where are we in this adaptation? Where are we adapting, you think, as a city organization to make sure who we hire, bringing them in, getting the proper tools that need to be taken care of to keep them, as much as you share with some of the challenges being even at that? Where are we?
It's an ongoing challenge for all of us. First is the sourcing issue. We knew, as you know, economists knew, people work in human resources arena, we knew 20 years ago this shortfall in population was going to come. And we also knew that the birth rates had declined. So everybody is struggling. I mean, it would be nice to say that our time to fill is 30 days. Nobody has 30 days anymore. You hope, you pray, you maybe call somebody you know in a different organization and see if they know of anybody who's looking for a new opportunity. But it is very tough. None of us at this point in time know how long an opportunity is going to be out there before someone says, this is the right opportunity for me. I wish I could tell you that it's 60 days. It varies by function, it varies by skill set. And then there's no assurances that even though the person has the right credentials and has come from the right background, whether it's public sector or private sector, that they have the skills to interact and collaborate and partner with other individuals, because they may not have worked in the public sector before. So we have to teach them what public service and what it means to be a public servant.
Can I, one last one, thank you, Mr. Chair. So would you say then, because you shared in your report, again, thank you for the report and bringing us up to date as what you see happening and what we're faced with. So is money the all catch-all? Is find money the all catch-all to making sure, you know, because again, as you mentioned, we're going to be in budgeting situations here in a few days, and things going to be asked of us. So is it money that's going to be that kind of thing that we have to continue to look at, try to bring that?
Money gets you in the game, table stakes. You got to be able to attract, and particularly if you're looking for individuals that have experience in the skills, selling them on the fact to come to an organization where you're doing the public good and public service and the intuitive value, intrinsic value of that, they cannot relate to that like some of us have related when we said we ran from the private sector for the opportunity to serve, regardless of the compensation differential. So with a lot of them, we have to be able to show them, yes, there is a differential, but it's not a 40% differential. It may be 10 or 15%. Because at the tail end, Commissioner, we're very competitive. But over the years, other organizations recently have been much more aggressive in trying to close some of those gaps. And fortunately, you know, Mike and Sean both are very cautious about what we do and how we do it, and make sure, as I said earlier, that it's planful and it's prioritized. So it's just something we have to look at and figure out what's best long term.
Thank you.
Other question, Commissioner Music.
Yep, I have maybe a comment and a question or two if I can. First off, thank you just for the presentation. I think that we all enjoy the data. It certainly opens our eyes and lets us know what's going on. And as the father of 3 kids that are millennials, it is certainly a challenge to raise them in this new environment. It also reminded me, as you were talking about the phones and the different ways that they work. My wife, who is a professor of nursing, has made a rule that in the classroom while she's talking, we don't want you to be on your phone. We don't even want you to be on your computer. And she has seen the engagement during her classes really change, which it's nice and insightful.
Thank you.
A question that I have is, do you think that we will change as groups, not necessarily the city of Lakeland, but maybe your craft, will it change to the millennials, or are they going to be changing to us, or is it going to be a hybrid? How are we going to work with that?
From what I'm reading, it's going to be a hybrid approach, but it's going to be more of us reaching back and helping close those the very last thing on Simon Sinek, because I was looking at this earlier this morning. Engagement and job satisfaction emanates from their ability and willingness to strike a balance between their current style, defaults, and those required to be productive, to make the impact they desire. So we have to close the gap on what they see, what they want, what their skills are, and help them make that connection, because they are so short-term focused, they haven't been taught to think that it's the long haul. And, Cynic in this particular article and video goes on to talk about one of the things we did by everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a ribbon, is we've devalued those that work hard and stay the distance, while artificially esteeming those that just showed up. And he says we have to help them understand the incremental value of doing the value add, that making a difference, above expectations. It's not, you just don't show up.
Yeah, and I've seen that video, and I don't know that I'm as optimistic, having hired some of them that signed this, but I do appreciate that. So if we could go back a couple of slides to one of the employment graphs. Okay, right there. So we had, if I'm understanding this graph correctly, we had 8544 applications so far to date. Is that correct?
Correct.
Applications for how many jobs? Because when I'm looking at that number, and then I'm looking...
619.
What's that?
At least 619, because
Okay.
we've extended 619 job offers.
So of that, so did we? Okay, so I see the number of job offer we have. So were we able, even though we had a reduced number of applicants, were we still able to meet the positions?
No.
Okay, so we have open positions still that, because of the information that you discussed, are still outstanding.
Bob has in Parks and Rec 17 openings? Yeah. 17 openings. And that's not a highly skilled, some of the jobs may be more skilled, but for the most part, they're not highly skilled things where somebody needs to come in and have a tech school degree or a certification. We can teach them if they have the attitude and they show up and, the right approach to work. So it's hit or miss. I mean, we're teaching our people to screen candidates, to find out what their definition of success is. What obstacles have they had to overcome? Because any of those things that they haven't had to do, these guys got to teach them. And hope they stick to it long enough that the bumps and bruises that come along the way doesn't deter them and they say, I'm out of here.
And I think that's one of the first things on one of the earlier slides, where you're talking about when we lose, right, the Donna Hayes, and we lose some of these people to retirement that have spent, oh my goodness, an unreasonable amount of time in one spot. We're not seeing that anymore, right? My dad sat in the same classroom for 50 years. That's odd. But when we do see a lower level, is there an opportunity to consider outsourcing some of the smaller, lower wage, higher turnover jobs?
You could source it on wages. However, the markup isn't worth it to you. Mike would have a problem saying, we're going to do this because we're going to cut wages, but I'm paying a 50% markup to a third party. It just,
Gotcha.
in a lot of instances, it doesn't make good dollars and cents.
Okay, I appreciate it. Great info. Thank you.
So Commissioner Music, as an older millennial, I don't know what you mean by being difficult to raise members of our generation, but leave it at that. So, Mark, thinking of, I think sometimes the challenge in the public sector, perception, or maybe at times reality, the limitations on upward mobility and be able to move into management roles. And when I think of the 40 and under workforce, colleagues and people I know, there's a strong desire to be able to move up quickly. And I think historically in the public sector, that hasn't always been the case. And so you see people leaving for maybe pay is part of that, but also the opportunity to move up quicker. So how do we address that and build that into our departments and in the city as we're going forward?
Upward mobility is always a challenge. I think in the public sector, it's been a bigger issue because it's typically flatter than private sector organizations. What we have to do is make sure that we are tapping into those folks, even if there isn't vertical growth, that we're tapping into them as resources on project teams, on task teams, to tap into them so they're challenged and they're part of the solution. We recently presented to Sean and Emily a hybrid work team proposal that wasn't Mark Farrington, Joyce Diaz, and Julie Aldemeyer. That was 7 or 8 managers that we think highly of, that we said, you present to him, you sell him. And that gets them engaged. One of the things we have to look at are people who may not be able to leave and draw a retirement benefit, but have 5 years in, but either they got a brass ring opportunity or they're out of here. Well, we got to talk to those we're out of here, because if anybody in this room gets a brass ring opportunity, we're out of here. But we got to talk to some of those folks and say, maybe I could have stuck it through. What were some of those challenges? What could we have done differently? And be a little bit more introspective and in the interest of being transparent with the workforce, and see if we can salvage some of those people. Some of them may come back, because the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and that's what this generation is learning too, that all the glitters is not gold.
That's right.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
You good?
Sure. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioner.
How are you today?
I'm good, sir.
Well, good. I have 2 millennial daughters, so I understand the Me Now scenario. Fortunately, the companies that they went to work for, and I'm sure we do it as well, had some educational opportunities. So if they wanted them to advance, they had to go to Florida Southern, and the company would pay for their schooling and stuff like that. Do we have anything like that in place?
We have a tuition reimbursement program, and currently we pay up to $2,000 a year after a year of employment, and we've got some proposals in front of the city manager to change that with the effective of this year, because right now the lion's share of our tuition reimbursement dollars go to police and fire staff who are required to do that to move up. So we've got to do some things to incent people, to help people that maybe in life challenges, starting a family, getting that first mortgage, they just don't have the money to take that first semester and put $1,800 into a course. So how can we facilitate that? Because we reap the benefits. The other thing that we've done, last year, I put forth a change to the Civil Service Board, and we changed it where we allow excess experience to substitute for some education, because they could be here for 20, 30 years but still hadn't had the opportunity to go back to college, but they had a PhD in whatever they were doing in the city of Lakeland. So the Civil Service Board concurred, and we changed that in our civil service rules. It doesn't guarantee them the job, but it guarantees us a look-see at more of our people, because now they pass minimum qualifications.
Thank you. And I'm going to have one simple question. What can we as a city commission do to assist you?
I think realistically, help us with, as to the extent you can, with wages, because that eliminates something from the conversation. I mean, when I looked at the data and I looked at the variance between us and other communities where there was greater than 5% data or gap, that was very concerning. And I made a copy and I took it down to Mike, and he had the same concerns. That even with the 5%, we've still got a bunch of red telling people it's a great job, and you're looking at everything else in their world where the gap is even greater. And so it's just that's the one thing. In terms of support, I have great colleagues. Sean and Emily are accessible. I'm good.
Thank you. Good question, Commissioner Reed. Thank you.
I have
Yeah.
one more follow-up, if I could.
Commissioner Music?
Thank you. On the employment offers declined, when we are having 11.47 or 71 people decline, are they doing a good job of kind of giving you feedback as to why they're saying no, to help with what we've been talking about here?
It varies. A lot of them will tell you, well, I can go to XYZ and get this, and I can go there. A lot of them, typical of the generation, we won't get a response from.
And that was my question, yeah.
We won't get a response from.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes, one last thing, Mr. Chair. Mr. Farrington, in your comparisons, I want to make sure your comparisons with other municipal munis are the munis that have the same scope of layout as Lakeland with its we have a city that operate 5 major enterprises, 14 total. Are these cities that you're comparing us to that have showed us 5% differential, are they the same kind of
Yes, sir.
situations?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, and thank
no
you to
problem.
your
Thank you for the
entire HR
opportunity.
team. It was a great presentation. So we will now move to a special check presentation by the Lakeland Rotary Clubs to Common Ground Park. So I would invite all of the representatives from Lakeland Rotary down front, as well as Bob and Pam. And if you all are coming, or whoever from Parks is receiving that check, and we'll have a proclamation related to that as well.
Don't be afraid of the stage now.
Let's get everybody up here.
Yeah,
Not in the wings. When did everybody?
come on up.
Everybody up.
Still saying, come on down, come on up. Come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, and Mr. City Manager. My name is Vince Jones. I'm Chair of the Rotary 5K Committee. For 19 years, the 4 Rotary clubs in Lakeland have been conducting a Twilight 5K run to raise money for construction and maintenance of the Common Ground Park. Over $400,000 has been raised and donated by Rotary to the City of Lakeland for Common Ground. This annual event is a combined effort organized by the 4 Lakeland Rotary Clubs with the Parks and Recreation Department and the many sponsors who contribute to the event's success. At this time, it is our pleasure to donate the $12,000 proceeds from the 2022 run to the Common Ground Park Maintenance Endowment Fund.
Thank you very much. And that's quite a bit of money that's been raised over the years through this event and through your efforts. Anyone from Rotary like to make a few remarks? Don't all jump at once. Tad on that? Okay. Parks and Rec. Bob, any?
Very pleased. Rotary does so much for Parks and Recreation. We can't thank you all enough. This goes just beyond this, what you've done, Hernando's Landing, all the park projects, the clock by Lake Mirror. The list goes on and on and on. You are the most giving group I've ever met in my entire life. Thank you so very much. We surely appreciate it.
Everyone stay here for the proclamation because it is related, and then we'll do one official group photo afterwards. John Scott Day. So whereas the City of Lakeland's Common Ground Playground was dedicated in January of 2009 and was Polk County's first inclusive play experience, a playground of non-traditional play areas that permits children of varying abilities and disabilities to be able to play together side by side. And whereas the Lakeland Rotary Clubs were the major contributor to the playground's initial construction. And whereas the Rotary Clubs of Lakeland continue to support Common Ground Playground by annually providing funds for the maintenance of the playground. And whereas funding for this annual support is provided by money raised by the Lakeland Rotary Club's annual 5K run for Common Ground. And whereas the Rotary Clubs of Lakeland recently held their 12th annual 5K run for Common Ground. And whereas John Scott, a Lakeland South Rotary Club member, helped organize the 5K run and has served as the Runs Committee chairperson since its inception, now therefore H. William Mutz, Mayor of Lakeland, hereby proclaims, along with the enthusiastic support of the entire commission, July 5th, 2022 as John Scott Day in the City of Lakeland. We encourage all our citizens to recognize the significant impact of John and the Rotary Clubs of Lakeland have had and continue to have on the maintenance and upkeep of Common Ground Playground. Thank you all very much. If you have kids in Lakeland, you love the parks here in our city, but if you have young kids, you know of Common Ground and people from outside the city. I know we have friends who come over with their kids and want to meet at Common Ground, and so it's a special park, it's a special place. We appreciate your support. The Twilight 5K is one of the best runs in the city every year, and so thank you for your work in putting that on and making it happen. Thank you for the generous donation.
Just wanted to add that John Scott will be unable to. Just wanted to add that John Scott will be, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, unable to join us today at the meeting and presentation. So I will gratefully accept the proclamation for John and present it with him. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Here, Chad, he might want to hold that for the picture.
All right.
See, my dear, how you doing? Good to see you. Doing well. That's right.
Yeah, and Brian will present it.
I'll now invite Bill Cohen to come up to present our beautification awards for this month.
Speaking of longtime employees.
Yes.
Well, good morning, everyone. I think first up will be our residential award for this month, and it goes to Joey Calhoun and Makara Calhoun, who reside at 726 Orange Park Avenue. There's the picture there. This is a beautifully restored house right in the middle of our historic district near Lake Morton. The yard's immaculate, plenty of color being supplied by impatiens and other flowers, perfect grass, and it was obviously a fantastic renovation job of this older residence. Is anyone here to receive the award today?
All right. Come on up.
It's pretty.
It's pretty.
Very well done. Looks great. Anything you'd like to say about the property? Or
We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Our hobby and just enjoy the flowers.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well done. Congratulations. We'll get a picture. Yeah.
We have a brand-new facility here that's receiving the commercial award for this month. It's called Royal Oak Apartments. It's located at 923 East Lemon Street. It's in the Garden District, they call this area, and as you can see, the architecture of the buildings really amends itself to that area. It has the historic look to it. All the trees that were planted on the property, they're all thriving a couple of months later and off to a great start. Perfectly maintained landscape, so it's just a great new addition to our garden district. Is anyone here to receive this award?
We'll make sure they get a copy of it.
I'll make sure
Yeah.
they get everything.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
I'll bring a sign by and put it in the yards and everything, so
Thank you for doing that and for bringing these to us this month.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no committee reports for this meeting, so that takes us to the approval of the consent agenda, including last meeting minutes and the items marked under consent.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Any comments by the public on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passes. We have no pre-scheduled requests to appear from the general public. There is public comment at the end, but we did not have any that had been scheduled beforehand. So that takes us to the equalization hearings, where we cease to meet as a commission and convene as an equalization board. At this time, if you received a notice about your property, about a fine that's associated with that, this would be the time for you to appear before this board. Is there anyone here this morning who is here for that purpose? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion by the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I should say aye as well, so passes unanimously. In running the meeting, I forgot to vote, but it is unanimous. That takes us to public hearings. A1, I'll turn it over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have one ordinance for second reading and consideration of adoption this morning. That is proposed ordinance number 22-027, an ordinance relating to the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, making findings, approving the inclusion of certain lands located within the city of Lakeland within the boundaries of the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Move approval.
Motion approved, is there a second? A motion to approve and a second. Discussion by commissioners. Commissioner Reed.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, I guess we have other property, we have multitude of different properties that are being encompassed in this particular area, and I just know if we want to put up a map so the citizens could see what they are, so they would know.
I'll ask Chuck Barnby, Transportation Manager, if he wants to say a few words and put up a map.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Somebody may get in the service, may not even know they have bus service in the near future. So.
We'll try it this way for the moment. For the record, Chuck Barnby, Community and Economic Development Department. As Commissioner Reed noted, we do have 4 properties that are scheduled for addition to the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District boundaries today. Being added to the transit district subjects them to a $500,000 ad valorem tax for transit services. The original boundaries of the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District were established back around 1980. And so over the years, as opportunities arise through the development review process, through other types of annexation activities, we are steadily adding properties into the transit district to increase revenue and the coverage area for transit services. So the 4 properties in question today, the first 2 are actually located on the south side of Modelo Road, just immediately south and west of the Sun and Fun campus, south and west of Lakeland Linder International Airport. And those 2 properties make up a future 74-unit single-family subdivision, which is technically part of the Morgan Creek PUD, but is actually going to be developed completely separately. And so this will be a residential development that is served right now by the Red Line, as operated by the Citrus Connection. Okay, so. The other 2 properties are located within Parkway Corporate Center. One is immediately south of Currymore Drive on the west side of South Pipkin Road, and is actually being added into the transit district to facilitate the combination of the 2 portions of that overall tract into one development tract for development and for sale. The property to the north of that is also on the west side of South Pipkin Road within Parkway Corporate Center, and is going to be part of an overall warehouse distribution center serving an industry called GoBuilt, who's also building an office across the street on the east side of South Pipkin Road. So all 4 of these properties are located within the Southwest Lakeland area, 2 tied to a development north of Morgan Creek, and then 2 within Parkway Corporate Center.
Thank you, Chuck. Any other questions, Commissioner Reed?
Thank you.
Other questions? Questions by the public? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. City Attorney Davis, I did want to make a note about the item that was on our agenda study on Friday that had been pulled for this agenda, and just a quick comment on that, if you will.
Correct. Under City Attorney Ordinance's first reading, was proposed ordinance 22-029, which related to a conditional use for an off-street parking lot at 411 East Orange Street, which is the side of the old Florida Citrus Mutual building. The applicant has requested that be withdrawn for now. However, they intend to bring that back in some form in the next couple of meetings.
Okay, so we don't know when yet, a date?
Not exactly, but possibly as early as the next meeting.
Okay, thank you for that update. We have no updates from the Community Redevelopment Agency, so that takes us to our city manager.
Thank you, Commissioner McLeod. I have 4 items for presentation and then a couple of verbals at the end, please. The first item that I have is a recommendation regarding a change order with Hubbard Construction and an amendment with Atkins North America, and this is for the runway Cat 3 approach at Lakeland Linder International Airport. The Cat 3 Instrument Landing System, or ILS project, is a project that we've covered many times at our commission meetings, and that project is now fully operational. The FAA has since accepted responsibility to maintain the Cat 3 system moving forward. We're in the reconciliation phase, and we've also completed the inclusive of final quantities, field adjustments, and FAA required changes for their acceptance of the system. The airport is now ready to proceed with project closeout, including the change order with Hubbard Construction. FDOT will cover 80% of the total project cost. The change order is in the amount of $287,481.28. It increases the contract to $6,979,693.15. The main elements of the change order include quantity differentials, material substitutions, and field adjustments associated with site work. The amendment with Atkins North America is in the amount of $74,580. This is because of an extension of time to the projects of about 60 days. This requires a resident project representative to be on site during that. FDOT is funding $59,664 of that total of $74,580. The airport's share will be funded through the airport's 2021 bond issuance. And so we request that the City Commission authorize the appropriate city officials to enter into the change order with Hubbard Construction Company as presented, and also enter into the amendment with Atkins North America as presented, and there are no additional appropriations required to accommodate this request.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Comment by commissioners? Any comments by the public? This is a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you. The second item is regarding an amendment with Atkins North America for Taxiway E rehabilitation and Taxiway S construction at Lakeland Linder International Airport. Taxiway E rehabilitation and Taxiway S construction, that project is currently substantially complete and progressing through the final punch list phase. There is an amendment requested with Atkins North America in the amount of $77,940. This is also for the resident project representative that will be required, as the construction duration has exceeded the original timeline by approximately 60 days. The project is funded through 100% Federal Aviation Administration reimbursable grant. It's recommended that the City Commission approve appropriate officials to enter into the amendment with Atkins North America as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. I see our interim airport director is here today. And like always, I think I'd like to see some maps if possible.
So I had the maps last week, and I don't have them today.
No, today?
I apologize.
Okay, well, I got to see them Friday, but that was for general public anyway.
I do think, Chris, that you could make a few comments. We had good discussion on Friday about the work that has been done over the past several years. at the airport. And you talked about the bones of the airport and the different runways and the projects we've worked on. And I think that would be good to reiterate some of that again, if you will.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, especially over the past 6 years, we've rehabilitated so much pavement out there that are what we say is our bones. Our bones are good. Taxiways and runways, and safety areas, and then the addition of the Cat 3 ILS. We're one of 63 airports in the country with a Cat 3 ILS to bring people in at very low minimums for the aircraft to land here at the airport. We're working towards our master plan, which is a parallel runway. We're in the middle of an airport service volume evaluation right now. We should have that back this week, and that's going to set the path and help us make decisions for environmental and other topics as we move forward. So the parallel runway is the future. Right now, I think our biggest focus should be on vertical and building out the airport now. After all these years of putting all that money into the infrastructure, now's the time to capitalize on the infrastructure that we have on the airfield.
That's great. Thank you. Commissioner Music?
I was going to ask the question that you did. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Any comments by the public on this one? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
The next item is a recommendation regarding a change order to the construction agreement with Cobb Site Development for the North Wabash Avenue Extension Project. That project will connect North Wabash Avenue with Fairbanks Street. The construction at this time is 99% complete, and in order to close out the project, there is an associated change order which has multiple tasks, which includes a time extension of approximately 52 days, an added circular driveway and water utilities lift station, added fuel and other specifications where adjustments for current asphalt price index quantities vary by more than 5%. Also overrun and underrun of pay quantities on the project. The total contract price change is $107,356.04. And again, the time of the change would be about approximately 52 days. The contract price, again, at $107,356.04, and the increase by 52 days will be part of the project that is funded by the Transportation Fund, and the available funds balance for this project will cover this change order. Our new final completion date is July 9th, 2022. This is requested that the City Commission authorize the city officials to execute this change order with Cobb Site Development as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share with those who may be listening and are aware of the location. This particular first phase of what we would call, I guess, our new north-south route for our city has really turned out to be very nice. I don't know if everyone has gone by or driven in that area, but for what we had there for many, many, many years, at the particular intersection of 10th and Wabash and the surrounding kind of topography was just not welcoming, because the way the road just dips and you come back up and hard. We had a rainstorm and water just settles there, and if you're driving, you may hydroplane, But the way we've done that, and of course incorporating this with the new north-south route that would help traffic, I guess, along way in Lakeland. I got a question for Mr. James, Greg James, if he would come up and just share with us, where are we now once it's completed, because this is 99% done. We're moving still further south to get this particular road diet all the way down south to help with traffic that we have, of course, in our Lakeland community. Where are we now with phase 2, as we call it, phase 2?
Good morning. Greg James, Assistant Director of Public Works. We are in right-of-way acquisition right now for the southern portion of this Edge or Wabash corridor. We'll wrap up the current section on the north end here at 10th Street this week. We have a final walkthrough schedule on Friday, and we anticipate everything being checked off and bring that project to closure. We are looking at potentially between now and the end of the calendar year to move into eminent domain for that right-of-way, which we haven't been able to acquire through negotiation, and for that south half. And then at that point, we'll be ready to go to construction. We just need construction funding, which we currently do not have.
And not having construction funding, are we moving forward, city management, are we moving forward with any type of, I guess, process to help support getting funding from TPO or whomever, state and all, to help support what we're doing going south? Are we moving in that direction at all with some kind of discussion?
We'll have some opportunities to do that potentially with some of the upcoming grant funding that could potentially be available.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments by commissioners? Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Any comments by the public on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Final item before a couple of verbals is regarding renewal of Corvell Corporation as a third-party claims administrative services, workers' compensation, auto liability, and general liability claims administration for the city. In March of 2017, the commission approved a 3-year contract with 2 one-year renewals. The first 3 years of that, the annual fee for services remained static. In the 4th year of that contract with Corvell, they agreed to maintain the cost of fees for services due to COVID's economic uncertainty at the time. In the 5th year of the contract, some of the services were reduced by up to approximately 3%. The city's purchasing division has approved Corvell as a sole source provider for third-party claims administration services, workers' compensation, auto liability, and general liability claims administration. This includes an on-site auto and general liability adjuster. By providing an on-site adjuster, the city realizes a focused interaction with our residents and claimants, allowing for greater control over our self-insured risk program. Workers' compensation claims under Corvell Medical Management's model includes technology-driven solutions and impactful and interactive case management support, and has significantly lowered the city's medical costs by nearly 40%, has been our experience. One-on-one's claim management for our injured employees is another benefit to this program. Corvell's claims expertise has also led to a notable reduction in the city's modification factor in our workers' compensation coverage, and this has resulted in a 25% reduction in our excess workers' compensation premiums. It's recommended that the commission authorize the appropriate city officials to renew with Corvell Corporation for 2 years at approximately $228,150 annually. That is subject to adjustment depending on the number of workers' compensation claims that we experience. This would also include 3 additional 1-year renewals that would include up to a 3.5% increase annually. That completes presentation. Staff is available for any comments or questions.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Questions or comments by commissioners? Commissioner Reed.
It looks like they've done a real good job of reducing our cost. Is this are there other people that do the same thing, or is it just why having a sole source as a?
There are other companies that do similar. However, the package that we receive from Corvell is unique and justifies the sole source. The on-site adjuster that we talked about, some of the other proprietary software and processes that we have provided by Corvell gives them a unique standing with the city, and that has demonstrated the savings that you referenced and were part of the agenda item. And so the ability to continue to work with Corvell, we should receive similar experiences moving forward.
Do we know what this 40% lower in cost relates to in dollars, as well as the decreased premium by 27%? Do we have any idea what those numbers may be in dollar amount?
The actual dollar amount?
Yeah.
Joyce Diaz is with us. Joyce, do you happen to know what the actual dollar amount would be?
Morning. Joyce Dias, Risk Management and Purchasing Director. I apologize, but I don't have that dollar figure at hand. What we strive to do with all of our, especially our workers' comp claims, is the quicker we turn people around, get them healed and back to work, the more savings we find both in our operations to be able to utilize, that employee again and healthy, and then fewer medical claims, especially where we do on-site. We use our clinic and our on-site physical therapy, so our costs are much lower because we have some control over those.
Thank you. Maybe you can give us those numbers sometime in an email or something?
Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
We can certainly pull that. Joyce, the 40% and the 25%, those are reductions from our previous experience?
Yes.
Okay.
Since 2017, when we went from Summit to Corvell, we've experienced those reductions year over year. There's been, gradual compounding experience in our savings.
So that's cumulative number?
I don't want to say that, so let me
Okay.
get those numbers for you so I can show you, because I do have a year-over-year comparison.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Walker, did you have a question?
Just suggesting, yes, it'd be good to email the actual savings, the dollars that we see, whatever we have, because people will ask.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Joyce. Any comments by the public on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner McLeod, just a couple of verbals, and I don't want to get ahead of the commission for your comments at the end, but I do want to commend staff for the Red, White, and Kaboom celebration that we had over the weekend. I was able to come downtown and join our staff, the communications team, certainly Parks and Recreation, our public safety officials, Parks and Work staff, everyone involved. It was a tremendous event to have that many people in the downtown and have, no major issues is a testament to the hard work that staff does. We got very fortunate. We had some rain just a few hours before the event, but it slacked off and it ended up being a beautiful evening, great fireworks show. Again, thank you to the MEMS Corporation for what they provide for the city there, and thank you to staff to put on that kind of an event and then to come out the next day and you can hardly tell that anything happened is pretty impressive, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. So I just want to recognize staff for that. And then I also want to bring to the commission's attention, and I want to congratulate our recently promoted Deputy City Manager, Emily Colon, has recently completed the International City County Management Association's credentialing program. That program provides a designation that indicates that a member is qualified by a combination of education and experience, adherence to high standards of integrity, and an assessed commitment to continuous learning and professional development. So that's a big achievement for our Deputy City Manager. I want to congratulate Emily Colon. That's all I have, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Congratulations, Emily. Very well deserved, and it was great hearing your presentation recently as well on innovation and strategy and the things that we're doing within the city. That takes us to City Attorney. We have one item, A2, for first reading.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is proposed ordinance number 22-030, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, approving a conditional use to recognize an existing church and child daycare facility and allow for the construction of a two-story, 3,662 square foot additional property located at 210 Popple Drive, finding conformity to the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Because this is first reading, I'm just reading this by title only this morning. This will come back for a public hearing and public comment and consideration of adoption on July 18th. We have several resolutions for action this morning. First is proposed resolution number 22-027, a resolution relating to assessments, determining the necessity for having cleaned and cleared certain properties within the city of Lakeland, providing for the assessment of liens against such property for expenses incurred in the cleaning and clearing thereof, providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Any discussion by the audience? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously.
Next is proposed resolution number 22-028, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida relating to transportation, approving and authorizing execution of an amendment to the traffic signal maintenance and compensation agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, designating the Public Works Director to execute annual amendments, adopting findings, providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion?
What is this actually going to do? What is this, Palmer, exactly?
I mean, this is something we've been doing for years now. The DOT delegates the authority to maintain traffic signals and devices within the city limits on state roads to the city of Lakeland and our Public Works Department in particular. So they handle the maintenance of these different devices and also coordinate the timing of the various different traffic signals. In exchange for that, the DOT provides compensation per signal or device to the city. So there's a lengthy list attached to this resolution that are the different signals and devices that we're maintaining, and this is updating that exhibit to reflect everything that we're doing, and then also authorizing the Public Works Director to add new locations to that exhibit as they come online over the years.
I was wondering, I saw a lot of dollar amounts attached to each one, and I didn't quite understand it, but thank you. So we get reimbursed for these amounts?
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Walker, did you have?
No.
Okay. Any comments by the public? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Passes unanimously. That takes us to miscellaneous reports.
Good morning. Ramona Sirianni for the City Attorney's Office. We have one item here, an interlocal agreement with Polk County for the Fort Fraser Trail project. This is an agreement between the city and the county where the city has agreed to contribute $400,000 toward the total construction cost of the extension of the Fort Fraser Trail in exchange for the county's agreement to design and manage the overall construction project. The extension of the Fort Fraser Trail will be from the northern endpoint at State Road 540. That extension would then go west to Lakeland Highlands Road and then north to Glendale Street to connect with the city's trail system. The Public Works Department already had an existing project being funded to extend the sidewalk that was located along the west side of Lakeland Highlands Road from north of the Lowe's entrance to the Polk Parkway. When Polk County brought forward the alignment of the extension of the Fort Fraser Trail, city staff determined it was a good idea to place the sidewalk project, the existing sidewalk project that the city had, on hold. And this was based on the fact that the county's alignment and extension of the Fort Fraser Trail was consistent with the project that we had anticipated completing. Public Works staff is recommending that the city sidewalk project then be canceled and that funding then be transferred pursuant to this interlocal agreement. For the cost of constructing that extension of the Fort Fraser Trail. The city already has the $200,000 appropriated in its current FY 2022 budget. The county's engineering consultant has analyzed the entrance to Lowe's and has estimated the cost of constructing that trail crossing at that entrance and also ensuring compliance with the ADA requirements will be in excess of $400,000. So city staff is recommending that the city contribute an additional $200,000 in FY 2023. That, of course, would be subject to the City Commission's approval of that additional $200,000 in FY 2023. In addition to the $400,000 that the city would be contributing, the total cost of the total project by Polk County is approximately $3.9 million. The interlocal agreement would require the city to make payment of the $400,000 to Polk County. That would be within 60 days of Polk County's issuance of a notice to commence construction of the project, and that construction is anticipated to occur in spring 2023. But prior to the start of the construction, either party has the ability to terminate the agreement for any reason upon 30 days prior written notice, and we'd ask for your favorable approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any comments? Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. I'm sure if Stephanie were here, she'd want to see have some dialogue from Chuck and stuff to kind of give us an update on the trail and the bikes and all that stuff. So and see some maps for our general citizenry, if they don't mind.
I do have some maps for you.
She's not here.
She's not here. I'm stepping up for her today a little bit.
Again, for the record, Chuck Barnby with the Community and Economic Development Department. So the map that's shown on your screen here is actually an excerpt from the city's comprehensive plan that shows our overall pathway system. The blue line, which runs pretty much through the middle of the city, past Florida Southern, towards Three Parks Trail, and then ultimately over to the Fort Fraser Trail extension we're talking about today, is all part of a what's called the Sun Trail statewide trail system. And so what we're talking about through this agreement is now finally the ability to connect our lake-to-lake bikeway system with the overall regional trail system moving south towards Bartow and points south. When complete, the trail system would connect to Tenor Rock Trail and ultimately over to the Van Fleet Trail for folks wanting to go up towards the Orlando area. The funding, as Ms. Sirianni said, is about $3.9 million is the cost to construct this portion of the Fort Fraser extension. $2 million is actually programmed in the DOT 5-year work program, and DOT has been alerted to the fact that there is a funding shortfall, and they are looking for other funding sources to be able to fully fund the extension up to Glendale Street. Public Works staff is also in the process of scoping out a trail connection along Glendale, which would connect the Fort Fraser extension to Three Parks Trail, and we are working on bits and pieces of the system as it works through the central Lakeland area. So this is definitely a work in progress. Let me jump over to the next map. While the focus here is about a 2.5-3 mile section of Fort Fraser extension, there is a much larger system that is evolving, and it'll probably take 10 or 15 years to complete. So we're chipping away at it bit by bit. And then one of the key components of the agreement that is under consideration right now is addressing the current slope issues at the Lowe's driveway on Lakeland Highlands Road. As you can see in this picture here, the pavement, even though it was resurfaced about a year ago, is already gouged. And you can see how cars coming out bottom out, trying to make a left-hand turn to head north. Not only does that impact the maintenance of the roadway, the ADA compliance of the future trail extension, but also it greatly affects the operations of the intersection, as we've noticed through the Arby's traffic study. So getting this intersection improved, as well as the driveway to the south, have multiple benefits to the traveling public in this area.
So Chuck, at that entrance, the trail will go across north.
Correct, from left to right.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, help me to remember, I guess, Mr. Barnby, once we get to 98 South, there's still no way to get across 98 South to connect to the rest of the trail.
Yes.
It takes you back into what I call City of Bartow, pretty much. Do you still have that dilemma? Am I saying that right?
Part of the overall project is to put a sidewalk along the existing section of the Winter Lake extension from 98 over to its terminus near the sheriff's maintenance facility. There's a very limited amount of right-of-way, so that's why they're looking at about a 6-foot wide sidewalk in that short section. Crossing over to the existing Fort Fraser Trail would be done by the existing signalized intersection. So it's certainly not optimal, but DOT had looked at another option to extend the trail due north across the parkway. Mm-hmm. And the last cost estimate we saw for an overpass in that area was about $7 million. And so it was extremely infeasible at this point in time. We still hope that if the CSX line is abandoned to the north, that we can get that extension and just run the trail north along Bartow Road, but that is a much longer term proposition than what we're looking at here.
But again, I heard you correct. There would be signalization at that point where pedestrians, bikers.
Yeah, there is right now.
I know, but I'm trying to make sure, I think for safety precautions, you got signalization, but we got to make sure it's timed right or whatever, because folks still got to cross that a major road right there.
Exactly.
So I'm sure that'd be taken into consideration, I hope.
It is.
Okay. And let me just say thank you too because I saw where we were at Lowe's there, you just mentioned, if you put the map back up, where the road was right there. But for years we had the problem at Pyramid Parkway at 98 North. And finally, it got corrected. So I will hope it doesn't take that long to make for this situation, because at Pyramid Parkway by Burger King and Denny's, North 98, we not talked about it for a couple of years or more. It was just a challenge. People coming down Pyramid Parkway, boom, dip onto 98 North. You can mess up your car, front and back, rear and front. So I'm just thinking in that situation too. Here, when I saw that popped to my mind. But thank you again I'm persistent about that because we finally got it done.
That's Greg, Ryan, and the Public Works crew.
Well, whoever, thank you.
Staying on top of this.
Yes, yes, thank you, appreciate it.
Commissioner Music.
Do we have if you're looking at 98 and the width of that, is there a possibility of a footbridge at some point, or is that not even a talkable?
I know that the county and the TPO had looked at it, and there just really isn't enough space to be able to get the ramps and get the grades to work without acquiring right-of-way. When probably 10 or 15 years ago, Mr. Holloway had looked at and had tried to get DOT to put an underpass in down by Banana Creek, which is, make sure I get it right in this area here to better connect Sandland Ranch and the trail to the south. Again, there were some issues in terms of elevations and basically 98 would have had to have been raised to be able to make that happen. And so that was cost prohibitive as well. So I think really at this point, it's really, if we can get the signals correctly timed and basically get the treatments on 98 itself addressed, that's probably the best situation that we have for, until we get the connection to the north directly along the existing rail line.
Yes, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Reed?
Chuck, can you go back to the first slide a moment, please? The little red dots line, looks like a jagged line, going around the east side of Hancock all the way north up to almost I-4. What is that little line?
That is actually the county's Panther Point Trail, which most of that is open now. And so the county's main focus is trying to close about a mile or 2 mile loop from the Marshall Preserve back over towards the Bellato property and Polk State. They've actually got an alignment study that they've requested through DOT. And there's some master planning that's also being done by the county, Gay Sharp and Tracy Mullins and the Parks and Recreation Group down in Bartow. So within perhaps 5 years, that whole loop will be closed off and you'd be able to cycle completely around Lake Hancock using the Fort Fraser Trail, Circle B, and this Panther Point Trail.
Is that more of a primitive trail?
A lot of it is paved, a lot of it is stabilized, like crushed concrete. But it is something that pretty much all bikes can use.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Certainly.
Any comments by the public on this one? This is a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
The last item we have is Second Amendment amended and restated implementation agreements for the West Polk and Southeast Wellfield projects. As you know, the city of Lakeland is a participant in both of those projects. These are large, complicated, and very expensive projects that we will require financing for. 48% of that financing is going to come from the United States Environmental Protection Agency's, they call it the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, or WIFIA. So we're going to have a WIFIA loan. The EPA has been in discussions with PRWC representatives just to make sure that once that loan is taken out, that it does in fact get repaid. So they've been reviewing the two implementation agreements and are asking for a change to those agreements to designate what they're calling anchor project participants. The city of Lakeland would be an anchor project participant, or the sole anchor project participant for the West Polk project. The cities of Winter Haven, Davenport, Haines City, and Auburndale, as well as Polk County, would be the anchor project participants for the Southeast Wellfield project. And the significance of that is that under the EPA's requested change, an anchor project participant could not withdraw from the project, could not reduce its water allocation under these projects, or assign its allocation to another party without the EPA's consent. So they're trying to make sure that the large players in these projects are going to stay the course on these projects so that the loans get repaid. There are also some other changes to the agreements that essentially just conform the two agreements with one another, but they're really not substantive in nature. The anchor project participant designation is really the only substantive change to the two agreements. It really doesn't change the city's risk posture with these two agreements. Because of the nature of the financing, we're going to get a grant from the Southwest Florida Water Management District for about 50% of the project costs. The nature of that is that we don't incur a debt there until we actually draw down on that grant, and then at that point, then we have an obligation to, then SwiftMud would reimburse us for that. So, and then with the WIFIA loan, it is something that we can draw on as the projects move forward. So in both cases, the city has the ability to look at the costs as we move forward, and if the costs are unrealistic, they're not feasible, then we simply would not draw on that SwiftMud grant. We would not draw on the WIFIA loan, would not incur those obligations. So we have the ability to manage our risks as we go forward. So I don't think that this really changes our position from a risk standpoint. Again, Bill Anderson's in the back of the room if you have any further questions about these projects, where they're at, that type of thing. But that's recommended for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners. Commissioner Reed.
Like I'm asking all the questions today.
Mr. Anderson,
You can build that. Yeah.
come on up.
Do we have an estimated cost at this juncture of what that may be?
For this project, for this project, no, and forgive me, Bill Anderson, Director of Water Utilities. Not at this point. We're putting together the scope of work for the second phase of the design, the engineering work, to take us to 100% design.
Now
So once we put that scope together, we will then seek PRWC board approval for that and then enter negotiations with Team 1.
So the piece that we're going to be 80% liable for, I guess, is that's the 2.5 million gallons per day or 10 million gallons per day?
Initially, so this is being designed or will be designed in phases. The first phase is for 2.5 million gallons per day of finished water out of this facility, with the ultimate build out in estimated 2045 of 10 million gallons a day.
Is there a difference between finished water and would be raw water would be more raw water than finished water?
Yes, sir, there is. So this water is being pulled out of the lower Floridan aquifer. It's very saline water. And so, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but for example, we may be pulling out 3.5 million gallons a day in phase 1 through the processing reverse osmosis. The finished water available would be 2.5 million. And so I believe at build out, it's, if I recall the number, is 15 million gallons of raw water with 10 million gallons a day finished water.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by commissioners? Thank you, Bill. Thank you to you and your team for tracking all of the moving parts and the things that go into this project and where we are now. And we look forward to hearing more in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Any comments by the public on this? See none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. That will take us to the audience portion of the meeting. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to the commission? This would be your opportunity. Okay.
There's still people that
So that will go to mayor and members of the commission, and that's the 4 of us. So who wants to?
I'm good.
You're out.
Happy 4th of July, Lee. That's about it.
Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of thank yous, and one is really past due. And I may have said thank you to this person personally, as I try to do when we see staff doing things or going over and beyond and above. But I want to thank you to Heath Fredericks, Public Works Director. There was a project, sidewalk project, that was done on Lincoln Avenue some months back, and there were some challenges, and there's like some new sidewalk work and repair work had to be done. There was utility poles that was in the way, and having to get around all that. And then when it came down to, I guess, down to north end of Lincoln, there, Lincoln Academy and West 10th Street, there was some concerns by a couple of the neighborhood association groups there about how that particular sidewalk traversed and the safety concerns that were there. And I saw Mr. Fredericks go out in the community and actually talk to different ones. And I thought that was over and beyond, because he probably could just pick the phone up and call. But some things, you have to go and just put your hands on. and look at and see what our citizens have concerns about. And he did that. And I see him in the audience today, so I wanted to tell him thank you personally if I had not already done it, because I know we had several conversations about it, doing that scope of work. And it turned out, I think, being very well done. And I will hope those that you talk with are pleased with the results of what we want to make sure was done. And that's making sure that people can traverse, and safety is important. As young children going back and forth to school, as going up and down Lincoln Avenue and 10th Street and other areas of our city as well. But that was the new construction of the sidewalk area that was being done, and repair work as well. So thank you again. Also, it's already mentioned by City Manager Sean Sharrouse about the red, white, and kaboom. You talk about packed out. I thought, wow, look how many people downtown Lakeland. And of course, I know having to cancel one in 2020 due to COVID. And then, of course, coming back to one in 21, and here in 22, I thought the amount of folk that we saw, and surprising enough to see folk come outside of Lakeland. Because a lot of them are not just all Lakeland residents, or what we call Greater Lakeland residents. There are other people from other areas too as well to come to be a part of the Red, White, and Kaboom. And it's a growing number, but it was knee deep. I mean, it's like, wow, the people around downtown, and even after it was over with, seeing folk how well they were getting out, and being able, and safety, of course, is being an important concern as well. Traffic, bumper to bumper, and it appeared when I got caught into a situation, it traversed very well, even though you have to take the time to get to a major arterial road to get where you want to go. So thank you again to the team members group and the staff here, as he already said, but also last night at the Joker Marshall Stadium with their fireworks and celebration of our Independence Day celebration, and after the baseball game and having city fireworks and all, and the number of people who turned out for that, it's like, wow, here we are again. So our staff here in our city, and as city partners with even the Lakeland Tigers and that Tiger operation, put on a very good event on last night too as well. So I want to say thank you for that, and thank you again for allowing me to do that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And thank you for chairing today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for doing what you did so efficiently.
Commissioner Music?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well done. I know that looking over those notes, that's
there's a lot going on, right?
There is a lot going on that people don't see.
New appreciation for the mayor's daily duties.
Yes.
Yeah.
On an interesting, just a personal note, my son's girlfriend came down and spent the week. We hadn't had a chance to meet her, so she came down and they stayed at our house, and he went to all the local things, right? Took her downtown, went to the farmer's market, went out to some of our city parks, and so they left and got back, and I asked him how the flight went. He said, good. He said, as soon as Rachel landed, she says, man, Lakeland really is a pretty place, isn't it? And we forget that. We get snowblind, right? We go and we see the downtown all the time. We drive up and down our historic areas, and we just get so used to seeing it. It's just neat to have a reflection from somebody that doesn't, first time seeing it, and to hear just the accolades, and so it was just exciting, because I feel the same way. When we travel, we always try to go and find the downtowns and see what their culture looks like. But to have that on a personal note, it's just neat, as a neat reminder, because that's why we're all up here, and we all, as elected officials and as staff, we love the city, and our goal is always to put it better than it was when we got here. So
yeah, that's encouraging too, when you have people from other states, other places who are visiting Lakeland, whether it's the first time or they've been here before, and their feedback is positive, and they like it, and they say, hey, this is a great city, we love being here. So thank you for sharing that. Just a reminder that next Monday night, July 11th, is the public meeting on the South Florida Avenue Road Diet project, hosted jointly by Department of Transportation and the city. So to those out there, it's an important part of the process. It's an important public meeting and an opportunity to come and give comments. So that will be here next Monday night at the RP Funding Center. Commissioner Reed, you're good?
You did a great job.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.
That's right. Let's end on that note. What else can be said?
Thank you.